Hi everybody, this is Meg. This is the face behind Chasing Retro. I wanted to just get on and say hi real quick and introduce myself. This will be the Q&A video that I promised you for my giveaway. I will be going shortly into the kitchen to sit at my craft space and work on a little project. And I thought that would be just something for you guys to have to look at while I answer your questions. But it's really nice to meet you, and I look forward to getting to know each of you even more through our Q&A and the discussion in the comments. So please feel free to comment in this video. Thanks for watching. The first question comes from Mardell. She asked me, what makes you drawn to the 1970s? For one, I am a 70s baby. I was born in the 70s. Let's just say that Staying Alive was the #1 song in the US the week I was born. One of my favorite songs ever. I love the fashions of the 70s. I love the music, and I love the decor. Okay, maybe the brown orange shag carpet can be excluded from that, but I love everything else. I'm actually drawn to several decades, not just that one. I love the 1920s through the 1980s, all for different reasons. I love the fashion and music and fads and the movies and the decor from each of these decades. And I love also how all of these decades are so different. I feel like, this is a personal opinion here, I feel like since the late 80s there have been less sort of new styles developed, and it's been more or less a rehash or resurrected style, just kind of repeated. But I feel like the first half of the 20th century was very original in its own way for each decade. I also love the thrifting and repurposing that was so common during World War II. My grandparents were very much this way, and I think it rubbed off on me a great deal. I have an old soul, I guess you could say, and people tell me that all the time. Okay, the next question is from Creating with Jovi, and she has asked, how did you choose your channel name, Chasing Retro? I actually had that name picked for my Instagram account first, which I had probably a year before I started a YouTube channel. I started a Instagram account just as a way to chronicle my thrifting adventures that I had when I was buying more home decor and things like that. Maybe that was 2 or 3 years ago. I really can't remember. It's in the last 5 at least. So I knew that I wanted a name that was easy to say and easy to remember, and maybe 2 words long. So I just kind of kept asking my family things like, when you think about me, what do you think about? And you know how much I love history and nostalgia and antiques. And they also know that I'm big into family research and ancestry, so I did genealogy for about 10 years. That was my #1 hobby for a long while, so I have scanned all the family photographs and all of that. And there were also many times on vacation where I'd sort of lead my family into a museum or even a graveyard to try to find ancestors and clues to ancestry puzzles that I had. So I think one day my daughter just said something like, well, you're always looking for old stuff. And so it just popped in my head, chasing old stuff. But then that didn't sound very good, so I decided to go with Chasing Retro. And even to this day, I brake really hard in my car when I see an estate sale sign. So I'll always be chasing retro, I guess. Marnell from Mimi's Keepsakes asked me, when did you start making junk journals? So I have a background in scrapbooking. Right after my husband and I got married, I got invited to and went to lots of those creative memory scrapbooking parties. And so I did that for a few years, and so I actually had a lot of the paper and the tools still left. So it was sort of an easy transition once I found out what junk journaling was and wanted to try it. I made a scrapbook or baby book for each of my children's first year and a little bit past that, and then I just kind of got busy and set it all aside. But when I started doing junk journaling, I pulled it all back out again, obviously, and was amazed at all the things that I'd held on to and very grateful that I had. And there were, of course, things that I had thrown away and was kicking myself for doing that. But, we can't dwell on all of that because it's depressing. But I came across a video on YouTube, and I do not remember who it was or what video it was. I have tried to remember it, and I can't. But it was a junk journaling process video, or maybe a flip through. And I just remember staring at it going, why have I not known about this before? Like, this blends everything perfectly together. It's collecting ephemera, it's writing. I've always loved to write. It's reading, it's decorating, it's embellishing, it's old paper, it's old books. It's literally everything that rates high on my list of favorites. But yeah, definitely that's how I got started. That was probably the beginning of January 2021. So I've really only been making junk journals for a year and a half or so. Roxy asked me, I am curious to what led you to make journals. I just answered that one. And whether or not you struggled with deciding to sell them. I find that even when others tell me my work is good, I feel uncertain as to whether it really is good enough to sell. So yes, it was a very scary process for me. I remember thinking nobody in the world is going to want to buy what I make. And so I started off just making them for myself and learning on myself and maybe making a few for family or friends and giving them away. But finally, after sitting at the table, I think it was around Thanksgiving 2020, somewhere around that time, or maybe it was the next spring, I don't know. But my mom and my sister, not 2020, 2021, my mom and my sister were like, you need to open an Etsy shop or sell these things somehow. And I was like, well, maybe, I don't know. And so after that, my husband caught wind of what they were talking about, and so he kept pressing me and saying, like, it's not going to be a huge gamble. It's 20 cents to list an item, so just try it, and if it doesn't work, in 6 months you can pull it down and close your shop. So I did just that, and I was blown away by how many early sales that I got. I was certainly not expecting that, and I still feel unworthy. And every time I hear that little sold sound that comes out of the Etsy app when I've sold something, I'm literally pinching myself because I'm like, I still don't understand, but I'm grateful that people are wanting to buy my things. But so if you want to get sort of geeky about this, I was a psychology major, and my uncle was a professor at another university, and he asked me my senior year to help him write or gather research for an article that he was writing for a journal, an academic journal, and it was about something called the imposter syndrome or phenomenon. And I have to laugh now because it's exactly what I'm doing right now. It is, and a lot of people do it. It is attributing every success that you have to something solely external, not anything that you have done. And so it's sort of like a humility that is almost self-degrading in the way that you feel like it's just happens chance that you are able to do the things that you're doing. And if somebody finds out that who you really are, you're technically an imposter. And I don't really have that extent or that fear of someone finding out the real me, but it is definitely, I see traces of that in my reluctance to all of this. And honestly, as a Christian, I don't attribute anything good or blessings that come to me as anything that I've done. I gratefully thank the Lord for everything that He sends my way, and I think He is the one that gave me the gifts and the talents that I use to make these journals. And so all glory to Him for anything that happens, including selling junk journals. 90s person asked, how or why did you start making journals? And then, do you have any artistic background or just a natural eye for putting colors and patterns together? I don't have any formal art background, but my dad does. He majored in art and archaeology in college, and then he actually retired as a illustrator for textbooks. And so even as a young girl, he used to take me out drawing and sketching, and I remember him I would watch him paint and I would ask him, how do you make the clouds look so real? And how do you know what colors to pick? And so it was more of a dialogue and a back and forth and just learning by watching him. But no, I don't have any formal background. I guess maybe it's just genetic. I don't discount that genes pass down, even with things like artistic talent. I think it's very real. So that's probably where it came from. Annette asked, I primarily make journals as gifts. Were you nervous to start selling yours? Yes, as I said earlier, I was. But I knew that if I didn't try to sell them, I would always wonder what would happen. So Ella asked, what do you do when you're lacking in motivation to junk journal? First of all, the number one thing that I do is I watch other people junk journal. Like, I just go on YouTube and I don't just go to my subscription list. I'll just go to the recommended videos, or I'll search something totally random paired up with the word junk journaling, and I'll just watch what other people do. And a lot of times that is just enough to get me started, even if it's a mixed media video, and all I do is pull out papers and do some acrylic printing on them. I don't have to put a journal together if I don't feel up for it that day, but it's just watching other people. And then sometimes if I don't do that, I'll just pull out stuff and start doing something, even if it's just making a collage like I'm doing here in this video. Sometimes that is all it takes to get me back in the spirit. And yeah, definitely those are probably the top two things that I do for inspiration. There are a host of very inspirational YouTubers out there who got me started, and I keep saying I'm going to put together a list of my favorites. There are just so many talented junk journalers out there that I learned a lot from at the beginning, even the basic things like how to know what to put in a journal, or not just the technical things like sewing signatures, but the whole concept behind, I have limited space. What do I need to shop for first? What are the bare basic essentials for getting started? So I learned a lot of that from watching videos. So I encourage you to do that, even if you're too tired or don't have any extra spending money or anything like that to start right now. You can at least start learning from others and create playlists for yourself that you can reference later, so you can go back and try some of these things that you've watched. Leanne says, I love the retro styles you create. I'm curious if you have any of your house decorated similarly. If so, maybe you could show us. Well, I did. I think it was the last video I put up. I did a little mini house tour, and it just showed a little snippet of some, things that of course, my house is also filled with family photos, but I didn't show those. But just, literally every square inch is highly personable, and people remark on it when they come in. And I know some people would hate living in a house that's so cluttered with things to the eye, but it makes me feel more calm to have all of these treasures surrounding me every day. So yes, it's one of my favorite things about this house is customizing it and making it full of meaningful items. Leanne also asked, do you think that a YouTube channel with journal flip-throughs helps Etsy sales? I feel like if I just posted journals on Etsy for sale without showing them off somehow, they would get lost in the shuffle. I don't have any scientific evidence to say yes, that's probably true, but in my own experience, it has been very, very true. I feel like when I first started doing this, I didn't really want to do a YouTube channel, but I quickly realized that I needed to do so, and just to make sure that the journals that I had, more than just 10 photographs of them would be able to be seen. I know when I am buying something, anything, even a t-shirt, I want to see every single view of that item. I want to turn it and see the back. I want to see how it's sewn together. It's just how I am. Online shopping for me is sort of a challenge because I'm a very tactile person, and so if I cannot hold it in my hands, and if I'm going to spend a significant amount of money on it, I really want to see every bit of it. And so I think YouTube channels help people like me There are some people that love to be surprised and love to just say, you know what, I like the look of the outside. I've seen 1 or 2 pages. I've heard good things about this person. I'm going to just order it. But I don't know that that kind of person is as common as someone like me who wants to see more. And if you don't want to see every bit of it and you want to keep it a surprise, then I feel like just knowing that the person has a YouTube channel makes them more transparent. And so if I choose not to watch it, that's fine. But sometimes you could just go read the comments under the video and see what people are saying to know, yeah, I want to get this journal sight unseen. I want to be surprised by what's inside. So either way, it's a win-win. And so it's kind of like that with house hunting too. You don't really want to buy a house if you've only seen the living room and the bathroom. You kind of want to see the whole thing. And I know that junk journals don't cost as much as a house, but you know, in these days we need to watch how we spend our money. And so to me, if it's a 15-minute video that will help someone make a decision about how they spend their money, then you know, by all means, I will put it up there. Joan asked, how do you organize your papers and ephemera? I'm hopeless at organization. And she also asked to see my face. So there you go, Joan. I did that at the beginning of this video. And I will try to do a video soon of my organization. And I say that very loosely because I'm not an organized person. I organize when I feel like it, but it's not my go-to. I'm not type A. So I organize things mainly because I was losing so much time at the beginning junk journaling just trying to find stuff. I found that most of the hours I was spending was looking for an item. So I knew that had to be something I worked on. Gloria asked, how do you choose what to put on the signatures? How do you choose the pages? And so, Gloria, I will try to do a video on this too. I think it's sort of different for everybody. There are a few basic rules that everyone seems to follow, but then everyone has their own spin on it. Diane Shaw at Shawcraft1 on YouTube, she has excellent videos that show her thought process and how she chooses her pages. She was one of the ones that got me started, so I would suggest looking her up. And yeah, I will definitely try to do a video of that. Another thing that I do that helps me, just because as I get older, I find that I just can't remember everything that I have available to me, and other things that I've used in the past that I want to put in future journals. So I just keep like a legal pad in front of me, and every time I start a new journal, I'll write down all the types of pages I want to make sure I include. And on top of that, I also keep a spreadsheet in Google Docs of all of the types of pages I have here at my house to choose from. So that will sort of like an inventory sheet, and it helps keep me from forgetting what I have and what I can use. Lisa asked, where do you find your best inspiration for journal creating? Also, do you have future plans to sell journals? So yes, Lisa, I do sell my journals now. They are in an Etsy shop called Chasing Retro. And as far as inspiration, sort of what I said earlier, other junk journal creators on YouTube, as well as just sort of thumbing through books and magazines. Like I have, you know, tons of just piles and piles of children's books, and unfortunately, you'll see what I mean when I show the video, but children's books and vintage magazines and even things like encyclopedias or dictionaries. I just start flipping through them, and sometimes I'll see a picture in a children's book that makes me think, oh my goodness, I haven't done a fairy tale journal yet, or something that will just spark or I'll notice the same item over and over, maybe in a book like daffodils, and so I'll say, oh, I wonder if I could do a whole journal on the theme of daffodils or sunflowers or fish or bicycles or whatever, tea, coffee. So just looking at things, because I'm a visual person, going to Pinterest also, not necessarily searching on Pinterest, but just looking through the recommended items in my feed sometimes will give me enough of a clue as to what sort of things I want to work on in future journals. Now, I also have a little notebook called Field Notes. It's my husband is a field note fanatic, and he gave me a few of his. There, it's just a really tiny, probably 3 by 5 inch blank notebook, and in that notebook it is just kind of like a brain dump. So I carry it with me if I can, and I just, whenever I think of a new journal idea that I want to do, I write it down in this notebook. That way I won't lose all of these little wish list journals that I want to make. So I would suggest doing that, and just start making a running list that you can add to or take away from or check off when you do make that journal. It's very satisfying to do that. And then the videos that you guys said you'd like to see, or different ways to bind junk journals, how I use my thrifted finds, and I'm assuming you mean junk journaling, but I also think it'd be cool to show other thrifted items if you're into that, like, you know, glassware and things like that. How to make a little golden book journal, that is on the horizon. I have thought about doing a process video for my next golden book. A tutorial for shaker cards, definitely, those are one of my favorite things to make, and I will show you how I do them. And then ways to use book pages as ephemera. There are tons of people, including treasure books, who do this so much better than me, but I will try to do a video like that. Journal with me videos, kind of what's happening right now. A baby junk journal, which is on my horizon as well. I've been sort of watching a few items on eBay to see if I can snag a vintage baby book. And then one commenter said, you're one of the few makers that don't use digital kits, which benefits those of us who have no printer, but I would like to see videos on having a more in-depth tutorial or process. So I do have a printer, and I do use digital kits on occasion, but I try not to do an entire journal with a digital kit, just because, number one, I feel like it limits me, and number two, it of course limits those who cannot print something out. So I will definitely take this to heart and do some more process videos. I hope you enjoyed this one that's playing. This is just a collage masterboard that I put on a sheet of parchment scrapbook paper that I'll cut apart later and make tags and add sewing and things like that. Thanks for watching, and I am so grateful for you, and please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Talk to you next time.